The expanded university, imaginative and boundless. Han Solo is arguably not only the most popular Star Wars character of all time, but he has to be in the top 10 most popular fictional characters of all time. If it's not obvious, he's a space cowboy, a cosmic Tejano plying the spaceways as an outlaw looking to make a buck and give the government the finger. A rebel. Women love guys like that. Bad boys. So Han got some. Let's get into it. Now we can skip some questionables and near misses because there are so many. Let's look at this timeline-wise. First up, we have the indentured factory worker that Han saved in the Han Solo trilogy by A.C. Crispin, Bria Theron. She wound up becoming a rebel agent after leaving Han so that she could kick her addiction to a sort of erotic telepathic power used by her former slave masters. Han was so messed up for this girl that he named his first ship after her. Next up, Saveri. Yes, I'm using an image of Zatanna from DC Comics because there is not an official image of Saveri out there. Han and Chewie went to one of her magic shows and invited themselves backstage. Han, that old smoothie, used his Wookiee friend to get close to her before he started seeing her regularly. Saveri was older than Han. Check out this passage. Saveri proved to be a voluptuous, attractive woman several years older than Han. She had long, heavy black hair that she wore in an elaborate coiffure. Her eyes flashed silver from the iris enhancers she wore. The magician wore a costume of violet silk, slashed in strategic places to permit occasional tantalizing glimpses of the golden skin beneath it. She was an exciting, exotic woman. Han wondered what planet she came from. He'd never seen anyone who looked like her before. Later, after going out alone with her, Han awoke after a few hours and decided to leave Saveri, who was still deeply asleep, to finish her rest. Quietly, he dressed himself and let himself out of the room after leaving a message on her comlink that he'd see her later that day. But Saveri wound up leaving Han because she thought that he and Chewbacca were making her weak. She hated the Empire for killing her family and wanted revenge on them. Next up, Sala Zend. The rebound relationship. Sala was pretty aggressive, and Han was receptive to that aggression. Check this out right here. I'm a pretty good mechanic myself, Sala said. I'd like to meet your friend. I'm going back to work on the Bria tomorrow morning, Han said. If you like, why not meet me tomorrow? And we can go over to Shug's space barn together. She gave him a measuring glance, then smiled, a slow, amused smile. I've got a better idea, she said. You come home with me tonight. Can you cook? Han's eyes widened. Well, talk about being direct. So there you go, Sala Zend. Eventually Han left her. He was a rogue. Katya Mbule was a fellow smuggler. She and Han survived a failed smuggling mission and wound up becoming involved. He probably nailed her. In comes Jessa, super cute outlaw tech babe. Check out this description. She was tall, her hairy mass of heavy blonde ringlets, and her shape did extremely pleasant things to the tech's coverall she wore. Her upturned nose held a collection of freckles, acquired under a variety of suns. Jessa had been on almost as many planets as Han. Just now, her large brown eyes showed him nothing but derision. Later on, after Han saved her father from a high-tech prison run by the corporate sector authority, she rewards him. Chewbacca was close to tears of joy. He threw his hairy arm around the Falcon's landing gear and gave it a wet Wookiee kiss. Jessa said, "See, Solo, it's easy when you're the boss's daughter." He was flummoxed. "Jess, what am I supposed to offer?" She slipped her arm through his, grinning slyly. "What have you got, Han?" She led him away, ignoring his objections. His outbursts became fewer as the pair walked across the landing field toward the distant buildings. Halfway there, Chewbacca saw, Han held his greatcoat open so that she could slip into it, safe from the bitter winds of Urdur, though her own suit was quite well insulated. Han then met Fiola, a high-ranking member of the Authority on a mission to break up a slaving ring. Han hated slavers more than anything, After teaming up with Han and friends to take down the slavers, he took her hostage. In order to escape a Victory-class Star Destroyer, the Authority had sent to take him and the slavers into custody. Viola knew Han was a good man and played along. He got his reward and he apparently got her. Let's look at this passage from Rebel Dawn. Han had been living high for weeks now, off the credits he'd gotten from the Authority Espo ship's purser. Dimly, he realized that his stash of credits was considerably less than it had been several weeks ago, when he'd said goodbye to Viola. Han Solo's Revenge is chock full of references of Han and Viola loving the way the other looked. They got it on, no doubt about it. Here's an interesting one, Jenny. Han was no sucker, so he wouldn't be letting some bar rat kiss him unless he was getting something out of it. Very likely. Then of course, Leia Organa. There's no way it didn't happen on that weeks-long voyage to Bespin, right? They seem to be together by the time they get there. It can't be denied that Han wound up with a great one, just about as good as any guy can do. Han loved women, but, like any smart guy, he picked and chose.